You ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon.
Well, welcome to the Roundtable, everybody. My name is Robert Bannon. You're listening to us on the Broadway Podcast Network or watching us on Broadway World or over here on social media. And I am excited because the Vineyard Theatre does some of my favorite stuff ever. I'm obsessed with the work that they do there. It's literally some of the best theater I've seen in New York City is over there. It's a jewel box of a space. And Sam is here, and I'm not going to even try to mess up the last name. I think it's like I'm scared, Sam. Will you just tell us your name, please?
You don't have to be scared. It's Kissajukian. With
Kisajiki.
the accent, I understand. It's difficult. It's a puzzle.
Well, I love it. And I know that your show is running until December 15th over at the Vineyard, and you need to get a ticket and you need to go see it. If you can find a ticket, Sam. Not many left. All right, so tell us, you did this at the Fringe Festival, and we've talked to a lot of people about the Fringe Festival in the past, and I've seen lots of videos, documentaries, and info about what the Fringe Festival is like. You wrote a show about creating 300 paintings during some kind of medical episode. So can you explain to us what is going on?
I love that. Some kind of medical episode.
I'm trying to be polite.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. So in 2021, I quit comedy and I was a stand-up comedian for 10 years and I lost the love for it and it really wasn't working out. And so I rented a warehouse in Sydney and I vowed to lock myself in there until I figured out what to do next. And so I decided to become an artist. I've never painted before or really made any art. And so I thought I've got to start painting. And so over the next 6 months, I produced 300 paintings, which is a lot of paintings. Like, it's probably too many paintings. Like maybe 10 paintings would have been ample, but I really went for quantity over quality, which is one of my philosophies. And yeah, it coincided with a manic episode. I didn't know I had bipolar. I do now, and so in the show, I take people through using images of chronologically the work that I was making over time, and kind of showing the comparison between what I was experiencing at the time and what I thought was happening, and then looking back post-diagnosis, what I think was actually happening. So it's a comparison between mental states, but using visual references of the artworks that I was making, and kind of an analysis of the creative process of someone, entering a new medium.
Whoa. Wow. And it's funny.
I mean, that's the goal because it's about mental health. So I think that it's it's the least I can do is try and make it as accessible as possible. I think like comedy as a skill set is actually, I think I've never performed under the theatre genre before, and it's a new experience for me. And having doing it now at the Vineyard Theatre, I think it can be, it's very helpful for getting difficult ideas across, where usually people might pull back and be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this or accept this. But I think if you're making things funny and playful, then it's the subtext that can be more difficult.
Oh.
And then kind of autonomously arrive at these conclusions themselves. And so I try and bury more of the difficult stuff kind of under the surface.
Well, and I believe this is your art behind you.
Oh, yes. I've also got an exhibition at the Vineyard. We can have a look around. It's everywhere.
It is everywhere, and it is beautiful, and it is. So I was watching some videos with you, and you were explaining your artwork, and some people just do art. We don't know what it means, but you get to explain it. Some of your videos that are online, of you explaining what's going on, and I've heard you talk about it, about anxiety or about like there's different representations to how you felt. Is that what you were doing? Was this how did you? I don't understand. You went into a warehouse.
I didn't.
You went into a warehouse, you locked the door, and what made you paint art that looked like this? Just your feelings, intuition?
Yeah. So I kind of realized I probably wouldn't be a technically strong artist starting so late in my life. I didn't go to art school and didn't know much about art history. And so I thought, the only thing I can really do is kind of do a reflection of who I am. But my conscious mind really destroys everything and taints it because I really want to make people happy and please people. And it's come from doing stand-up comedy. You know, you just want that approval. That willingness and wanting to get approval really ruins, I think, what I made in comedy. And so for art, I decided to focus more on my like subconscious and my unconscious mind. And so I really wanted to kind of me be more of the audience for the painting. So I'd make a mark and then I'd kind of have an emotional response to that and just very honestly respond to it. And then things would begin to build. And what I realized over time was that I was transcribing my mental states, because like I'm of the belief that your entire history across your life is stored in your nervous system over time, you know, like through either trauma or positive experiences. Like the way that you respond to red emotionally is very different to how I will respond based on your history. So I feel like my conscious intention of making art is very flawed, and there is a dishonesty to it. But if I can just respond to the work and let it build up over time, I can actually start to see the kind of subconscious elements that I'm not aware of. And then that accesses my conscious mind. And then I can understand what the work is. I sometimes don't know what the painting is about until months later. Like imagine visiting a photo of you when you were 20 and what your fashion was at the time. You probably have a better understanding now about what your intentions were at that time, your insecurities. You can't see that at the time. So painting provides like a historical kind of reference point for me to really understand the things that I can't see in myself. So it's kind of like a delayed mirror. And because I make so much work, I'm able to kind of see day to day as my mood shifts and evolves. So I find it as a very helpful process to actually help me understand myself day to day.
But this is the part that I find fascinating, Sam. It's fascinating because it's like a diary and it's literally like your journey. But then at some point,
Sorry.
you decided to give up stand-up comedy, but you magically, through 300 paintings and locking yourself in a warehouse in Australia, which is where you're from, have ended up off Broadway at one of the premier places to see original art. So like it's such an interesting arc for me because it's like I'm gonna give up showbiz, I'm gonna paint paintings, and I'm gonna be in Australia, and now you're in New York City at the
Yeah,
Vineyard.
part of the plan. I'm as confused as you are. This is not the trajectory that someone is meant to take. I'm like, I'm was a mentally unwell person not performing in a cake factory in Sydney, Australia, and then 2 years later, I'm off Broadway in New York. Like, it's very funny to me, actually. I didn't quit comedy. This feels more like comedy, like having an art exhibition in a theater off Broadway. I didn't even understand what off Broadway was. I had to Google what off Broadway was 2 months ago. I didn't know. It's very new, but I like it. It
Oh,
gives me a kind of.
well,
It's great
welcome.
that you don't expect you'll be.
Welcome to the party. Welcome. What you're here now.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
what is this show? Who is this show for? Is it funny? Is it scary? Is it traumatic? People who have bipolar issues or anxiety or have depression or other things that they're going through. Is this for them? Is this for everybody? Do you go through as much as you go through your art? Are you going to talk to us about how you feel, what we can do? Like, is it hopeful? Tell us, what do you think? What are we going to leave feeling?
I mean, I think it could be it's a lot of things to different people. I think it's a little bit like I approach the show in the same way that I work with paintings, in the sense that I think like artwork's a mirror. Like if you see something and you're not like, especially with like abstract work, and you're not sure exactly what it is, you superimpose your own history and psychology onto the thing to try and have an understanding of it. And I think like the same way, like you imagine with all theatre shows, it's the same. You project your own psychology and how it relates to you. So I think the show can relate to people in different ways. I think the main ones are, people with lived experience of mental illness. I think the show documents visually manic episode in detail, which I've not seen before. I think, people who have friends and family that have lived experience of mental illness, especially bipolar, they don't understand the inner workings. So I think like maybe it creates a bit more empathy and understanding and how to actually communicate and deal with people in these states. I think anyone that's ever like changed their career, like if they started out in one thing and then they transitioned into another, there is like a huge sense of loss of both identity as you shift across roles, and then discovering a new thing. And I think also like probably before people who are creative themselves, like I really go hard in analyzing the creative process and like the form from having a feeling to coming into an idea to putting it out, watching it fail, coming back to it. So I've had a lot of like other theatre makers. Actually, I would say like a majority of the audience have been theatre makers, performers, lot of directors and producers. I think it's like a very different show to what's out there, and maybe I would get some backlash from people. And I have had reviews where they're like, "This is not traditional theatre," and I'm like, "Well, yes, that's true. You are correct."
Does it scare you when you get producers and directors and people come to see the show, artists come to see the show, and you're doing something new that maybe they haven't seen? Do you feel a lot of pressure? How do you handle the pressure of doing a show in New York City that's very original and so personal?
I don't feel pressure at all.
Oh,
I'm so grateful to be here. It's much harder doing this show in Australia because people are like, what the hell are we watching? And then over here, it's been incredible. Like people are coming in that are like so multi-talented. They're a writer, they're a performer, they sing, they make theater, they're also a visual artist, and they've spent years going to therapy. I mean, this is perfect for me because when I was doing it as a comedy show, originally, when I first started doing it, I felt like I had to like really dumb down what I was saying so that it would kind of fit within that genre. I found that by doing it in theater, I'm able to like actually really say the things that I want to say. And I found the New York audiences have like been incredible, and especially people within theater. Like the producers have been amazing, and I've had great. It started a lot of really interesting conversations. So I look forward to doing the show more in the US. I like it here.
yes, come on. Let's go. Let's take it on the road. If while we're talking December, you have to only till December 15th. You could go to vineyardtheatre.org, and we've done a lot of shows with the Vineyard Theatre, and we shout out to everybody that works over there and what they're doing over there. It's the most beautiful place to see a show in New York. There's not a bad seat in the house, and you're literally going to be right up. He may hit you with a paintbrush. That's how close you're going to be. Sam, you boom. So you had to make a decision at some point that this experience led you to write this. So what was the awakening that said, like, I went through something, I've come out of this, I have 300 pieces of art, I want to tell this story.
Well, I hadn't done, so I went through a manic episode for 6 months, and then I went through a depressive episode for 6 months, and then I was diagnosed. And after I was diagnosed, I got an opportunity to perform at the Sydney Fringe Festival, and I didn't have any comedy material to talk about, and so I didn't know what to do. So I dropped out of the festival. I said, I can't, I've got nothing. And then they called me and they said, we'd really like you to do something. And so a few days before the festival, I thought, screw it. I'm not even going to try and do it as a show. I'm just going to put on a projector chronologically the images of what happened during that time in the artworks. And I'm going to go through week by week what I was feeling at the time and then reflecting back on. So, and then I invited, a lot of people that had been around me during that period or speaking to me that didn't have all the context. And it was really just for me to be like, hey, this is like what I went through. And just so you understand, because I feel like you only got snippets, you were very worried about me. And I didn't think I'd ever perform again after that. It was literally like a one-off. And then I won the Director's Choice Award and the Best Comedy. And it's been incredible. Like people just ask me to keep doing the show. Like honestly, if people stop asking me to do the show, I'll probably stop doing it.
Well, I was gonna say, I think you won something like some ridiculous number of awards out there at the Fringe Festival. How does something like this work, Sam? Like when you do this at the Fringe, people go see it. There's an audience, there's producers, directors, all creative people fly out to go wherever they do the Fringe festivals. And then how does it go from there to New York? Like, what's the process of your from performing it and winning awards there to being right now at the Vineyard?
Oh, it's just a phone call from Sarah Stern, the artistic director. She called me in September and said, do you want to come here? And I looked up what the Vineyard Theatre was, and I asked a friend, and they said, that's an amazing theatre. You should definitely. So I don't think that's like, I didn't expect it up. I wasn't sure. So now I know that it's a really great opportunity.
Good night. Get off my show, Sam. Goodbye. Get off.
I don't know. I told you. I'm not. This is very unexpected. Hey, but listen, you have to appreciate this. I also did stand up for 10 years and was knocking on doors, and everyone was like, maybe. So I feel like I've put in my failure difficulty time already. It's like, it's so nice at the age of 38 just to like it to feel a little bit easier than it has for so long.
Well, I'm fascinated by this because it sounds like the most original thing that you can literally find your way to in New York City or in the artistic world. What I'm moved by, Sam, is that as someone who tried to be an actor and tried to be a singer, does all that stuff, when I finally started to really lean into who I was and be myself, all of a sudden things happened. When I tried to people please and make what I wanted other people who I thought they wanted me to be, I was so unsuccessful. I was not authentic. And your story reminds me so much like that everybody out here has something so bright to share and something so great to shine that we just got to
I
be
love
comfortable enough to do it.
I think so too. And also, when I found this out from comedy, is that if you chase approval, you might become actually very good at that thing. But the more you chase approval, the more your actual voice of who you are begins to diminish. And then you just become a mechanism of the approval that you're getting within that industry. And I think eventually that forms into an identity as that performer that you can't escape. And then you'll start to hate what you're doing, which means you're not motivated to do it. And it's like, wait, you're not making much money and you're doing something that you're not enjoying. Like you've actually turned it into an uncomfortable job. And so it's like, you might as well just fail and just do what you want and not really care. I know that sounds so cliche, but I just didn't get it for so long.
Well, what I love about it is that is what I think a lot of us be your own. Yes, look, wrote his own show now in New York City, all the way from Australia, selling out shows, everybody, selling out shows, doing what you do. You sell your art, but you carry it around with you? What do you do with all your
No,
paintings?
no, no. It's like if you go, it's like if you go to a museum. It's just there. It's like so after the show, people kind of come in and they can look through the work, and I've got the didactics, which kind of tell little pieces of another story. So the way is I segment it. So the first part of the show, which is about 80 minutes, is verbal and visual, and then the second part of the show is that people take the information from that they've kind of learned because I feel like the show teaches people like not teaches but shows people how I think and I love that when I go to exhibitions is I really try and understand what the artist is and I feel like you just get wall text and you're like I don't really know who this person is so I love this idea that I can show people who I am in the show and then afterwards through an autonomous kind of moving around they can look at the art through that lens and so that's why I do the exhibition afterwards but they're not for sale.
Okay, so good. Get a ticket, vineyardtheatre.org. You have till the 15th. We're going to follow you. We're going to put the link to follow you below us so you can stay up to date because maybe he'll be painting. Maybe the show will be in other places around this country and around the world. Who knows? Netflix is going to show up. He's going to have a special next year and then he won't even remember being on our show because those are the things that are going to happen for you, Sam.
I will always remember you, Robert.
Th Thank you. And I will always remember you, but I'll probably be here in my classroom, ready to go home for the break. So, I mean, so of course I'm going to remember you. I am so grateful because I love original works. I love people who tell the truth, tell their stories. You're multi-talented at what you do. And it's an inspiration that you can turn things that can be difficult and change your life. And they don't always have to change them for the worst. Something great can come out of some of our hardest things. And that's a real beautiful story to tell. So thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Really appreciate that.
Go to the Vineyard, be a subscriber, join, go to their gala. Their gala's good. Sam, have you gone to their gala?
I have not. No,
Oh, you need to go. It's a swanky party.
I can do swanky party. I've been to a swanky party once.
See, okay, well, I'll see you there. I usually work the red carpet and then just look across to all of the drinks and food and luxury and dream one day I could write a show and be at the Vineyard like you.
I'll put it into the web for
Oh,
you.
thank you. That's it. That's it. I would say I'd get to painting, but that show has already been perfected and done. So let everybody make sure you head on down, go to the Vineyard, go to vineyardtheatre.com. Thank you so much, .org. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.